welcome everyone to the Nordic edition of the Tableau user group, where at least the original plan was to have a local speaker from Norway, Sweden, Copenhagen, Finland, and Iceland. We almost managed to do it. So we have one from Norway, we have one from Sweden, or actually two, I guess, because we got we have a surprise guest for you today that will join us a bit later. We don't have anyone from Denmark this year. We do have one from Finland, and we don't have anyone from Iceland. So that will be something for next year. So we will be traveling west of no, let me think. I'm in Bergen, so to Finland, to the home of, well, that's also a discussion. Is that the home of Santa Claus, or is it in Norway? I think that Esa and Antti will disagree with me and Martin.
There's only one correct answer. It's Finland.
Of course, you would say that. So we'll start with Antti from Finland, who will talk about new perspectives to financial data. We'll then switch screens, see how that works, and go to Denmark to where Elena will talk about good practices for applying or getting interviews for data jobs. And then we'll go to Norway, where Martin will talk about how to code and prepare standard data sources. It's quite interesting way of or approach of doing that. I've seen it before. And then the guest, the Santa Claus of today is then Leif from Tableau, who will share highlights from the 2021.4 release that were promised to be released yesterday. So that's something we will hear from Leif when it actually will be released. Because I'm so eagerly waiting to get into the pre-release beta of 2022.1, but that won't be released before, that's how it is. So if you have any questions about that, Leif will most likely, maybe, perhaps, I don't know, know the answer for that. And then our keynote from Germany, the Zen Master and Iron Fist champion, Mr. Klaus, Santa Claus, I'm not sure. And he will talk about how to do pricing in Tableau, where he's created a pricing model using Tableau Prep Builder and Tableau. And then we will have some time in the end to do a holiday-related Kahoot, and I have a lot of prizes that I will hand out, or send out rather, to people all over the world, depending on how good you are doing. But before Antti will get the screen, make sure that you are ready to. I'm just going to go down here a bit before we do that, just so you see. Now you see Mr. Klaus Schulte in here, with a beard, by the way. If I now go to this picture from New Orleans, the Tableau user Tableau conference, the first person who sends me an email to this email address with a circle around his face in here. I think he also has a beard in here. I'm not going to give you any hints. So take a screenshot, try to find Klaus in here, and you will get some Tableau swag sent home to you. I can say that he are between two other Zen masters that have attended the Tableau user group Norway before. That's the only hint I can give. So if everyone has taken a screenshot and are ready to find where's not Waldo but Klaus, and send it to this email address that you have in here. I'll also put that in the chat so you are sure that you write it correctly. You don't have to pronounce it. It's enough that you write it correctly. So good luck with that. There will be Tableau swag. And then I'll hand over to Antti from Quick BI in Finland. And I'll see if we manage to do that with any hiccups. I have so many screens and buttons in here, so I'm gonna stop my share. If I manage to do that. Stop share. There we go.
All right. Hello all. Let's share my screen.
Perfect.
All right. So short introduction. I'm working in QuickBI as CEO and BI consultant since 2019. And my background is in mid-sized companies like Med Group, Pauli Group, and Mitsubishi Forklifts, typically in data, working with data and leading reporting projects in my previous companies. Interests on free time, I'm playing with kids most of the time, and some of the time with playing football, golf, floorball. And shortly about Tableau history, I've been using it daily or weekly since 2016. So currently building reports with our customers. And a couple of words of QuickBI. It was founded 4 years ago. Currently we have 8 employees and one private investor, Sontec Ventures. And what we are doing, it's data platform for mid-sized companies. We try to enable efficient development of reporting for small and mid-sized companies as well. So what I had on agenda for today was a couple of questions for like financial data. Why do we need daily updated financial data? Why aren't we good with monthly income statements and balance sheet reports? And second question, we have 500K on bank account. Is it a lot? And third question, how revenue develops over time with continuing customers. So I switch my screen to Tableau reports. All right. So first one is about daily reporting and a daily balance of bank account. So this report tells me that bank account balance is 724, 3rd of December. And when clicking it, it highlights the balance of exactly same day from history. So we can see how it compares to 3rd day of month in history. And what else we can see from the dashboard is the monthly development of bank account balance. So what we see here in monthly picture, these are months. So here is November, starting with balance of 715, and when the payroll expenses are paid in the middle of month, it goes down, and then back up when invoices of first few days are paid on account. So what we can see from the dashboard is how the, let's say, November compares to October, how the December compares to them. And from yearly line graph, we can see the average balance of every month in different years. So we can highlight current year and see how it develops and compares to previous year. So idea is to answer the question, is it a lot or not if our lowest balance in 1 month is for example 570 like in November. In this in this sample data, it's much lower than previous months in same day. So the base data behind the report is bookkeeping data, voucher row level data from ProCounter finance software. And the second report I had in mind to show you guys is this customer revenue development over time. This is also based on exactly the same data. And what we are doing here, we are looking how the revenue accumulates over customership during time. And instead of using a date like a voucher date on x-axis, we are calculating the age in months of each customer, so we can we get them to the same starting point, even if the customership has started in 2018 or 2021. So we can, for example, highlight customers which had first invoice date 2018 and compare them to the, well, let's compare these 18 and 19. And what we can do, we might have a question in mind that how do they develop during first year? Here we have average customer, which accumulates 23,000 euros in revenue, but there's couple of customers which are which are bringing in much more money than average during first year. And in addition, this part of the dashboard is calculating exactly the same thing, but summing 12 months, last 12 months figures. So we can see how the yearly level sets when customership develops over time. And third dimension, from like product category perspective, how does the revenue split between main product categories over time? So we can pick one customer and see how it goes with one customer or on average with so this is basically what I had prepared from new perspectives for finance data. So something to add and think about beyond income statements and balance sheet reports.
Thank you. Is there any questions from the group? Then feel free. I put it in the chat. You could use the Q&A, or you could use the chat, or I think you can even unmute yourself. I'm not quite sure if that works, but we'll see.
I could have a question. Like, actually, it's very interesting. Looks like you're using Tableau embedded, and you have built your own portal around the Tableau, isn't it?
Yeah. This is this is embedded view from Quick BI application. So we have our own Tableau server, and the reports are embedded from there.
I have a practical question, or I'm not sure if it's practical either, but that's something that I see a lot when, if you just hover over any of your, just get a tooltip for any of your graphs for Kesko or Kona cranes or anything. I know that this is a demo and everything, but it says running sum of amount along table across. Is that something that you normally modify in the tooltip so it's written something more readable? I mean, for us who are working with Tableau every day, we know exactly what it's doing, but for the end user, they don't know very much about. They don't understand. Most likely, won't understand this along table across, for example.
Yeah. Typically modify if I use those table calculations.
Yeah, and write it in proper English, or in your case, I guess even in Finnish, but yeah.
Yeah.
There was a question from John. Have you thought about adding a text box that would make it easier for the person looking at it? Today, our cash reserves are X% lower than usual, or today our cash reserves are normal. Well, yeah, same question as he says in there, but that's not necessarily exactly the same as the running total a bit, but something extra information to add in the tooltip.
Yeah, good idea. I have only this small box that compares yesterday, and there's the change the previous month. But yeah, good idea.
Yeah, we have to give Jon some payback on that good tip. And there was also very cool with the reference day. That was a feedback here as well. Is there any other questions or comments?
Yes, I do. I have a question actually. What is your preference? Do you tend to build with floating containers, or do you tend to build in kind of tiled containers with your layout, especially when you're using Tableau as part of an embedded application? I'm just wondering what works best for you guys.
Well, I usually build with tiled. I've sometimes tried with floating, but I always tend to get back to tiled. How about you?
I always prefer tiled as well, but there are always the limitations, which is why I'm always curious to hear what works for people and their organizations. But yeah, I'm on the same page as you. Tiled is best.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who are either tiled or floating. I tend to be more floating than tile, but I love now that you can, of course, when you can have the floating containers, the show hide, you can now also do that on tile. That was a good step forward. A question from Klaus. Why did you place the toolbar at the bottom? And is it the toolbar, are you talking about the
Tableau toolbar for custom views, for alerts, for subscribing, and so on? I've only just noticed it, and I fear that it might get overseen there. And I know you can place it at the top as well, and that's maybe where you would normally search for it, at least if you know how to use, if you know the defaults from Tableau server.
I think the default was bottom when we started with Tableau server, because I don't remember we made any modifications. I'm not sure.
Okay, but that's
yeah, it should be possible to move it on the top as well. And then I guess also I've seen some embedded solutions, and some people also just remove that entire option.
It's a parameter, and it can be top, bottom, and false, I think, to exclude it.
Yeah. Okay, then I'll say thank you, Olla Hiva, to Antti. And we are moving on. So I don't need to share my screen, but the next we are now going to Elena, who will talk about good practices for applying and interviewing data jobs. So you can share your screen. I can also say that I have received 2 emails already. They were really fast with just wild guesses, both of them have said, but actually both of them that have sent an email so far have found Klaus in the view. So that's impressive. I'll show you the picture later where he actually is. So there's still time for the rest of you to see if you can find them.
Great. Dori, can you confirm you can see my screen?
Yeah, I can see the layout.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
Perfect. So hello everyone from me. My name is Elena Hartland, and I'm joining here from Stockholm in the call. I am the BI team lead at Daniel Wellington, and you can also find me on LinkedIn, Twitter. My Twitter handle is just my name, Elena Hartland. And today I decided to give you a short talk about not necessarily hard-coded data and numbers and Tableau, but a little bit about maybe what you can find useful when interviewing for jobs. Just a little bit of background who I am. Originally from Bulgaria, I moved to the United Kingdom in 2009 to go to university. And then I spent 10 years in the UK working in various jobs. And I joined Daniel Wellington here in Stockholm in February 2020. So it's coming up to 2 years here in Sweden. You can talk to me about data, all things Tableau and data, dancing, cats, and I'm actually currently on parental leave. I've got a 2-month-old in at home. So any tips on parenting as well, whilst working with data would be great. So why you might want to kind of take my suggestions or completely disregard them. This is my background, and this is where my opinions are being formed from. And of course, this is entirely my opinion. It's not like a specific science behind it. It's not my employers, or it's just it's my opinion. So you can take it or leave it as it is. But when I finished university in 2012, my first job as a graduate was in the careers department in my university, and for 15 months I worked with recent graduates and students, kind of trying to get them into the job market. And this is where I did a lot of training on kind of how to conduct interviews, how to look at their CVs, their cover letters, etc. So I found that fast forward 2021, when I've been interviewing for colleagues in my team, some of that feedback is still relevant, even if it's kind of moving from the UK market to the Sweden market, and talking about graduate jobs versus somebody with maybe 5-10 years of experience working with data. This is kind of some relevant things there. But kind of just a little bit about, again, my background in between Leicester and Stockholm here. I have worked in 4 different universities, which is the public sector in the UK. In 2018, I joined Parexel, where I kind of worked a lot more about my own kind of my SQL skills and more kind of technical skills. So this was my first private sector job. And then, as I said, here in 2020, I moved to Sweden as a BI developer first. And since the beginning of this year, I've been in a team lead role. So as I said, my experience in both public and private sector I think is something kind of interesting that has given me this perspective. And I've been on both sides of the interview process, which is why I said, maybe something interesting there. So the job process, kind of the application process in different jobs is always different, and you have different stages. I'm going to focus on 3 different elements here. So kind of the screening element, where you sort of send your application or your CV and cover letter, and kind of how to get kind of maybe that stage and what might help you get to the next stage. Normally, you can have psychometric testing, other pre-screening interviews, maybe with HR. The second element I'm going to focus on is kind of the first interview with maybe the hiring manager or the team lead, which normally is, I don't know, maybe between half an hour and an hour. And then another element I want to focus on is kind of technical interview, where normally nowadays you also have a case of some sort that you might have prepared beforehand or kind of do it on the day. So kind of these three different stages that I believe are part of every day's application process for data jobs. So as I said, the screening stage is where you apply and there's so many applicants there, and kind of really the goal there is to kind of stand out, to be noticed, and to be invited for the next stage for actual conversation. And kind of three things I've seen and I think that would really help is, first of all, making sure that your CV and cover letters are tailored. So that's something, again, we used to tell students at the university and say, make sure that, your personal statement at the top of your CV is reflecting the kind of the job you want to apply. Of course, when you're a student, you apply for any job in any sector, most likely. So that's why it's important that you don't apply for a marketing job when you've put down you want to be a lawyer in your CV. Of course, if you're applying for data jobs, that normally is the same. You're applying for very similar roles. But kind of, again, making sure that you have a good personal statement at the top of your cover letter is really important. And it's the same with the CV and also with the cover letter, make sure that you read through what the job description is and try to highlight, if you have the opportunity to submit a cover letter, to highlight how your experiences are really going to meet the expectations of what the job will be like, because every job description has a good information, kind of what you might be doing, what tools and technologies you might be using. And kind of one thing as well is kind of not to do there is make sure that you don't accidentally submit cover letters for different jobs. I have seen applicants who have sent us cover letters when they have clearly used them written them for different jobs at different companies. So of course, it's not always a deal breaker, but kind of little things like that, they can happen, but just be extra vigilant because first impressions do matter. So it's kind of something to be mindful of. But when I say tell your CV, that kind of goes into the second element, which is keeping it short. Because if you're somebody with like 2 years of experience working with data, but maybe you have 8 years of experience working in other sectors, something completely different, nothing to do with data, nothing to do with analytics, yes, you may want to kind of highlight and list all of your experiences. You don't want to seem like you have no experience whatsoever, but kind of tailor it and make sure you really highlight and make it easy for those people who will be reading the CV, be it HR or the hiring manager, making sure that they can actually see how you have the relevant skills there. So, for example, if you worked with data analytics 6 years ago, and then for the last 4 you've done something completely different, and then now you kind of go back into that job, maybe kind of make sure you, instead of going completely historically, put maybe the more relevant experience first, so it's kind of easy to see, easy to read, and then the rest of the experience in kind of the separate section, maybe like relevant experience and other experiences kind of further down on the second page. So something that's kind of, again, it's easy for the reader to see it. But equally, I have also seen candidates, really good candidates, who have sent me CVs who are 9 pages long, and that's great, amazing. It's really inspiring that you have so many years of experience and so many different projects you worked. But something that to be really careful is, if you're working as a consultant, and I'm looking for a consultant in my team, it's very, I've kind of sent to work with consulting companies, and they'll send me a couple of candidates, and then I'll have the opportunity to review them. But if, for example, I have to review 35 CVs in 24 to 48 hours, and most of them are 9 pages long, I will do my best to read them. And that's probably the same for everybody else. But bear in mind that you kind of, when keeping like 9 pages CVs, it's really risky. And you're risking the fact that you might end up overlooking some of if the relevant skills are kind of further down in the pages, somebody might overlook them. That's not to say nobody would read a CV, but it's really kind of going back to the first page, tailor it, making sure the relevant skills are highlighted, especially when you talk about tools and technologies. Yes, of course, we talk about Power BI, ClickSense, Tableau. They're kind of you can talk about the transferable skill. The skills are there. They're transferable. You can learn one tool, you can learn the other. But of course, if you have used Tableau, you're applying for a job that requires Tableau, but that is kind of on page 6, because for the last 5 projects you haven't used it. Again, it's just making it a little bit more difficult for the people to see it and make sure that you kind of tick this box, because at the beginning it really is a tick box exercise. So keeping it short and telling your CV and cover letter is really helping. And one something else as well is catching their attention. So of course everybody wants to be original. Everybody wants to kind of show who they are, show their personality. It's really hard to do it just on paper, of course. So make sure you kind of mention in the CV who you are, and the same way that both speakers today, we introduce ourselves with a little bit about our personal life as well, what we like, hobbies. Keep that as well in kind of 2 or 3 lines in the CV. It's definitely something that can help later in the conversation, and also be really be free to kind of to write something really interesting and maybe why you're applying for this job. I have seen really interesting catchphrases like, if the next thing I love most after my family is the brand, Danny Wellington brand, which is okay, it's funny, it's really cool, it's not offensive, but also be mindful if you put something that's so original, try not to be maybe a little bit kind of too aggressive. So for example, I really it's not about why I want to work for you, maybe it's not about why I want to apply for you, but why you want me to work for you. So be kind of really mindful of how you tailoring your pitch, kind of the original pitch there. So it's really interesting. I love kind of reading these kind of these open questions there, but it's really it's important kind of to know what you kind of write there. The second stage I wanted to talk about is the first interview, where really it's a matter of getting to know each other, getting to know who you are, who is the candidate behind the CV, behind the written application. And kind of again, to be elements there is to be prepared. And again, really, there's only so much you can read and infer from the job description, but make sure you really have read it again just before the interview, thought about how your CV, the CV and the cover letter you have submitted really relate to that job. And that's going to the job description. That's really going to help you maybe anticipate what might be the questions that you might get asked. And there might be usually get some questions around from your experience. Could you tell me how you can, how you'd handle X, Y, and Z? But sometimes you might not have that direct experience, and maybe you want to say, well, I don't have that direct experience, but I would do it in X, Y, and Z matter. So again, a little bit theoretical how you might end up approaching this problem. But of course, it's always best to talk from your experience. And you never know what exactly will be the question, but again, just reading the job description can help you anticipate some of these questions, like would you be working with stakeholders? Maybe there's a job description that mentions something about mentoring others and training other stakeholders. The next thing is listening. Listen to what the questions are, and when somebody asks, of course, in the interview process, make sure you listen. Don't kind of cut them short in kind of your eagerness to really answer the question because you're confident and you really want to show eagerness. Make sure you let the interviewer really finish their question, and then you go ahead and answer, because sometimes you might actually end up answering something that's slightly different from what they were asking, wanted to kind of find out from you. So listening is, I'd say, really important. And asking questions, which is alluding to kind of to the next slide. This is the kind of the opportunity, especially if you have the next stage will be the case study, to ask questions about what is it like working maybe in the team, what is it like to what type of stakeholders maybe you're going to be meeting, what type of data, maybe how big is the team, and some of these might be answered by the interviewers themselves at the beginning or towards the end without even you asking these questions. But it's really important to get to know the environment, and it's something that I really always look forward to, answering the questions when I'm interviewing candidates. And it's something that you can prepare, and if your questions get answered before you even have the opportunity, maybe build upon them. So you've already answered how big the team is, but maybe how do you interact, how do you do this, how do you do that. So it's really showing interest in the opportunity, and also it will help you prepare better for the technical assessment, which going into it is technical assessment. You normally have the brief, make sure you answer that brief. If it says something optional, of course it's optional, it's good if you cover it, but remember that it's also optional. And if you have mandatory elements, do answer them. But as I said, asking questions during the first stage of the interview process is what can help you understand the context and the context of this case study. So, for example, if you've been asked to build, I don't know, maybe a dashboard, analyze data and present it, it doesn't matter what tool we're talking about, it doesn't matter in what form. Perhaps what you want to think about is how are you going to be presenting this data? Are you going to be in a job where you will be asked as an analyst to, on a daily basis, pick some data and present it to somebody, or will it be more kind of in a back-end technical role where you might not necessarily be presenting information and insights on a daily basis, but you might be more focused on writing your text specifications for the dashboards and kind of explaining them within your team. And how do you achieve this? It's kind of building solutions not for the ad hoc analysis, but more for like sustainable solutions. So this really matters and really helps you understand how you might want to build your dashboards potentially. Are you going to be, I don't know, hard coding something as a quick solution to make it look good? Or are you going to try and use a calculation that is going to be showing you a sustainable way that next year's data come in and then it's all working fine? So the context matter, and try to understand that so that you can try to prepare something that is going to be more relevant to the role you're applying for. And the last thing really is not to panic. We all make mistakes. I have always made mistakes, and whenever I've made these presentations. And what's even really showing us when you make a mistake, and maybe somebody noticed that you have made a mistake in the calculation, or maybe you're missing something whilst you're doing the analysis, is how you think about it, how you've made your decisions, if you've made some assumptions, to really explain those. Because if you've made an assumption, yes, it's the wrong assumption, but if you've made this assumption and that's how you've taken your analysis afterwards, well, it just shows us that, you know, that's what you've thought about, and that's how you've analyzed it further. So there's nothing wrong in making assumptions when you don't know the data completely, you have no way of finding the answer. But then how you've made your decisions, how you've made your rationale behind it, how would you find out if you're actually in a business environment? This is what matters. So don't panic if, you know, something goes wrong on the day. And this is really the last bit, is kind of, it happens that sometimes you might have prepared great and you might actually not get the job in the end. It could be for various reasons. Sometimes the vacancy gets filled in before you've even had a chance to kind of progress to the end, and there's only one vacancy. Sometimes maybe there's been a stronger candidate, kind of you assess directly against another one or two candidates, and it happens. And I have been in these positions as well when I've been successful in interviews, and sometimes when I haven't been successful. But kind of what you do then is, what you could do is you can ask for feedback. Again, you might have been perfect and they might not be able to give you anything really to build upon. I always believe that even if you have the perfect presentation, there's always something to find out. And if somebody asked me to give them feedback, I would always give them something, maybe one thing that I would say you could have really done a little bit more there, or it was great, even go further into kind of that element of the presentation. Asking for feedback is, I think, is something you could do. And of course, don't ask for the sake of it. Ask to get some insights, so then next time you can do it better. And sometimes you might not actually get the response, and there might not be an opportunity to be given feedback, but there's no harm in asking. The other thing is, don't be too harsh on yourself, because as you said, sometimes they're stronger candidates, better fit, maybe, but also sometimes it's a matter of finding the correct fit, not just on a technical perspective. I have the skills, I have this experience, on a culture perspective as well. And I would say, what I've noticed is it doesn't always the strongest candidate, kind of not the strongest, but the person with the most experience or the most direct experience that gets the job. And I'm not talking about kind of my current role specifically, I'm talking about kind of previous roles as well. And when I have been kind of as a team member, and I've seen that, you know, you might have a more direct candidate that has direct skills directly matching the profile, but it's more about the culture fit. Sometimes if you have maybe 3 analysts and you're looking for the 4th one in the team, what I've noticed is there could be, you know, a shift, and you're looking into, okay, we've got these 3 analysts that are really, really strong in these areas. Maybe you're looking somebody to be maybe with a specific tool, or maybe we kind of with more interpersonal skills, like kind of a little bit more outgoing. So sometimes it's a fit wider, not just purely, I'm ticking these boxes for the job description. So sometimes it happens, but I've also noticed that it could be that the vacancy is filled in, and a few months down the line, somebody else from the team leaves, and then you have another opportunity to be part of this team. And I think this is where it's really important to stay professional. And if, for example, yes, maybe you weren't successful in one round of the interviews, maybe in a few months' time, there happens to be an opportunity to interview for the same role for the same company. And if you still want to be part of this, if you're still in this position, why not apply again? And if you do that, and if you have asked for feedback, and if everything has been going really well, then you might have, a real chance again to be part of this team. And that's why I would say, don't be too harsh on yourself. Sometimes opportunities come back in the future, and it's more about kind of what do you do in the meantime. And I think this is probably one of the last things I have to say here. So I think this was 15 minutes. That was a lot more than 15 minutes. So sorry about that, guys. I'm happy to take any questions. But as I said, I'm happy to talk to you about anything data or not data related. So I'm just going to stop screen sharing.
Thank you, Elena. You forgot to mention, I think, that you also are the Tableau user group leader of Sweden, or Stockholm, it said, but you cover the entire Sweden, I guess. I also
digital, yes.
Yeah, I'll put in the chat window just a tip for any people who are wanting to apply for a job or would like to build a interactive resume in Tableau. There's a lot of those great resumes available already in Tableau Public that you could get inspiration from, because it's always nice.
I might mention also that there's a hire me button in Tableau Public now.
Yeah. I always say that you should build your own Tableau Public portfolio, and then you could have this hire me button, of course, now, which is a new one, which is great. Great way of showing off your skills. Thank you. Let me see if there was anything. There's good feedback, no questions at the moment. So to get back on track again, then, Elena, we'll move on to, I have to say, the champion of the Norwegian Tableau user group sessions, because we're always doing Kahoots. And for the last 2 ones, including the TC viewing party, Martin has won both of them. So I'm eager to see how you will end in the Christmas related Kahoot in an hour's time.
So no pressure then.
No pressure. So welcome and good luck, Martin.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay. So my name is Martin Mølmen. I work at Elkjøp Nordic. Basically, just a short intro. We run electronics retailers in the Nordics. So you probably know of Elgiganten in Sweden and Denmark, Giganti in Finland, and Elkjøp in Norway. And we are also in Færøyene, Faroe Islands. So we're the largest electronics retailer, and we have about, I don't know, a lot of employees. We started using Tableau about 2 years ago now, and it's still being sort of built out, and we're still seeing a high adoption rate, and that's fun. But that's not what I'm supposed to talk about today. Today, I'm going to talk about sort of like a small, quite specific thing. I'm going to talk about manipulating TDS files using Python. So this is, quite specific, but yeah, hopefully you can take something out of this. Basically, this is the sales pitch kind of. Are you tired of doing monotonous tasks in Tableau Desktop, like organizing in folders, or creating the same calculated field in multiple data sources, or creating hierarchies time and time again, default sort orders on attributes, or adding parameters, or including tables in your data model, or even including data source filters in your model? Well, this perhaps isn't your answer, but it might help you a bit. Basically, this can be achieved somewhat through a combination of XML files and Python scripts that I'll demonstrate or not really. I'll just show you some screenshots basically, and go through this as what's the word again? As completely stand still the word. So I'm going to try to teach you in as best way as possible. So basically, the Python script pastes in different XML parts into its correct places in the TDS files, right? So that's the big gist of this. So we have some XML files. I'll show you a bit more in detail on the different parts. So basically, there's some XML snippets that will tell Tableau how to organize attributes in folders, likewise what hierarchies to make, and so on and so on. So basically, TDS files are just XML files, right? If you open them in any sort of code editor, you will see a bunch of XML. That's your TDS file, the Tableau data source file. Same goes with your workbook. So the starting point for us when we use this Python script is basically that we just create a very simple model in Tableau desktop, right? So it's dragging in one table, and then you have your basic attributes from that table, right? That's being represented in a in the Tableau data source file that you can save this as XML files in a fairly logical setup, right? Won't go into details on the different XML stuff. I'll save you for that because I have about 10 minutes. So I'm going to jump through this. I'll share the PowerPoint with you, of course. So basically the thing is here that in each of those XML files, this particular example that I'm showing you here is where we want to put our article information in a folder in Tableau, right? And this is the setup in that particular XML file. It basically just states, like you can see here, the name of that particular folder, and then the different attributes. Those of you paying attention might think that, okay, well, this is nice, but how do you sort of predefine, do you predefine this every time, or how does this work when you're working with different data sources? Well, the whole concept of this, from our point of view, is that this is applicable to a data warehouse where we have a lot of common dimensions. So in our case, that means that we very often join in our dimension table with information on the articles, right? It's done 90% of the time, I would imagine. And in those cases, we can, instead of having to do all this organizing into folders every single time, this helps automate it. But you're sort of relying on having a lot of common dimensions that you utilize time and time again. Notice also at the bottom here that you can specify some hierarchies, and they're done this way as drill paths. So basically, this file then can take your your standard sort of list of some attributes and organize them into folders. So that's that bit. That's one of those XML files. Another example, another sort of bit that we use is that we can insert calculations. So we have a few sort of standard default calculations that we usually always apply. Like this is a date calculation for calculating 445 sort of financial period times, and so that we were able to utilize our own kind of relative date, say last 5 financial periods and stuff like that. So again, you're just, you have a simple file with some XML stuff in it, and you can tell here kind of, this is where I'm defining the actual formula that's being output here. So basically running this Python script that will just create this calculated field, and with this calculation in it. Just keeping an eye on time. Let me know if I'm going too fast though. Last example is that you can also utilize this sort of methodology to join in tables in your model. So basically, this bit here specifies that I want to join in a particular table or several. Basically, this is an example of two different tables being joined in on the model, and so basically your model goes from being like this with one table into suddenly having two automatically two tables joined in. In our case, and this I would believe for quite a few organizations would be a sort of a very common scenario, is adding like an entitlement table that's being used for row level security. So in our case, this particular table that we're joining in here is just a list of each employee and the stores that they are allowed to view data for. Typically, store employees are only allowed to view data for their own store. So this automates that process by running that Python script. You kind of adding row level security. Right. So this might seem like a lot of work. Like when I was making the presentation, I'm kind of going, so you're kind of trying to sell in that this makes your day easier, but it seems like a lot of work when you're sort of making the presentation here with all that code and stuff. Well, the fact is that, you know, this setup, arranging things into folders and stuff like that, it's only done once, or if you need to maintain it at some point. But it's, in our case, it's being reused for almost every model that we make, and it saves hours for each model that we make, and not least, it sort of takes away some of that really boring, monotonous time that you're spending in Tableau. And to me, that's like, because I hate doing boring, monotonous tasks. I don't know about you guys, but most people do. So now what we do, right? Again, just repeating, we're just creating a simple model, saving it as a data source. And then this is where the Python thing comes in. This is just a script, but when we've saved that TDS file, only thing we have to do is change the name of the file, basically, that it's looking up, and then just executing the script. So suddenly and then it'll do the adding calculations, organizing in folders, creating hierarchies, even sort of doing default sorts, tweaking those and adding, joining tables and stuff like that. And yeah, the reason why I've sort of put using Python in parentheses up there is just because, I mean, this can be achieved with any sort of scripting language, of course, that as long as it can just manipulate XMLs. I thought I might, yeah, just finish off by showing you the kind of files. I'm not showing too much. So this is the simple one, right? So the starting point, which just has one table that I showed you, and then you have all of these attributes on this very wide table. And then just basically running that script gives me this one with a bunch of attributes set up in their folders. It creates like some hierarchies. Down here, you will find the calculated column. Oh, disappeared. There you go. And it also creates a few default parameters that go along with that calculation up here. And yeah, that's about it actually. Okay, that was quick. Did I yeah.
You get a pin for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought I might just leave some time for questions or whatnot, but yeah,
thank you.
Basically all I had. Quick and dirty.
Very handy tool from Klaus. Any questions, comments from the rest of you guys out there that haven't gone on holiday or Christmas holiday yet?
I really wish that we can help making that journey simpler in the future.
Yeah, you could ask Martin how much he wants for the source code when you can.
Well, that has happened before that we bought sort of custom solutions. So yeah, why not?
Yeah. No, that's
Yep. Yeah, thank you. No,
sure.
There's no other or is there any other questions? I don't see any in the chat at the moment, at least. But thank you, Martin, and just get ready your thumb and finger for your the Kahoot afterwards.
Will do.
And then we'll swing back to Sweden to Leif. And you can share your screen in there. And for that 2021.4, that when will it be released? That's the question, and the first question.
That's a really good question, and I don't have an answer. I thought it would be out today. That was the initial date, was the 8th, and last time I heard it was the 9th. But you know, maybe it's PT time. But let's see, it's very close. It's very close. So this is actually the first sort of what's new in 21.4 that I know of. So I had to build a presentation from scratch. So this is not the official version, but it's going to be a pre-release version of everything. So bear with me if I make any mistakes. And also, you know, safe harbor and stuff like that. You should make purchasing decision based on existing solutions. But with that said, hi, I'm Leif Engdell. My name is a unique qualifier. So you can find me pretty much any way by searching my name or whatever. And I know some of you from before, so nice to see you all again. And I work as a solution engineer in EMEA North. That means that I take care of the Benelux and the Nordics. So, and I am situated in Stockholm. And I used to be a partner and a customer before joining Tableau in 2000. So I'm going to talk about what's new, and I don't have much time, so I'm going to jump right into it. So these are the highlights that we are showing in this release. Of course, there's always more, you know, in the nitty-gritty details. So make sure that you read the release notes and stuff like that. I'm going to focus on a few things. Virtual connections, I'm really looking forward to. That's where we make a new abstraction layer for the connections, the data sources. So, and I'm going to talk more about that later on. Connected apps, it's like, you know, how can we make service accounts in Tableau that aren't personal? So it's more of like a, you know, unpersonal, an app account instead of a user account, which is going to help in those integration situations that we're seeing more and more of, where especially in embedded situations, that's really important, but also in the API connections, where we have catalog systems updating the Tableau data management parts and data catalog, stuff like that. We have some Slack innovation, as always. We're going to try to fit that into every release, I think, going forward. One thing that I know is highly sought after is something called centralized row level security, where you can centralize all of the row level sort of formulas that you create for all of the data source purposes. So whether it's prep or whether it's, you know, however you use the data source, that policy will always be in effect. I'll try to touch upon that depending on time. One thing that we have in this release is called edit publish data sources. So I think that that's going to simplify a lot of things, especially for those that are running multiple sites and they need to replicate that same data source. You know, maybe it's a quick tweak in all of the sites. Let's see if we can touch upon that as well. Copy paste between dashboards, sort of long awaited, most requested user feature that we've seen. We're introducing something new, Tableau Exchange. If we have time, we'll look into that as well. It's the extensions that we're gathering. So we're trying to build a Tableau economy. I'm trying to extend it. We want our partners especially to sort of create and innovate in and around our platform. And we're going to see a great number of news around that. Similar to the Tableau accelerators, that's one of the parts that we're going to populate with partner materials. So, and also here we have the hire me button. Some other stuff that we're going to look at is we have some mobile improvements. You know, something that really killed the mobile focus was COVID, because no one was on the move, right? So everyone was at home, they had the big screen and stuff like that. But now we're starting to see mobile improvements being requested and being developed again. So that's going to be more and more important as we go forward. One thing I'm going to try to show you, because I think it's pretty neat, is multi-data sources support in map layers, which I think is really cool. Metrics is getting better and better all the time. I think that metrics is one of my favorite areas. It's just a number that you track, but it's so, you know, great to have, especially when, I don't know if you heard about that change radar, where you can sort of track changes in your data, and Tableau will automatically highlight that for you. And I think that's going to make a change for how people discover and monitor their operations. And, you know, we're all driving change, and this is what's going to sort of track that change for us in the future. Accessibility improvements, I think, is really important. We have a few use cases in the Nordics where public organizations are catering for those that don't see or use aids to like screen readers, for instance. Now we can navigate through the VISs, through categories, and have screen reader read those out, both the categories and the values, which I think is really, really good. That means that the data is accessible to even more people. And that's about sort of the things that I wanted to highlight, and being mindful of time. I'm just gonna sort of skip some of those, but if you're interested in a particular one that you've seen that I haven't mentioned, just sort of write in the chat and we'll revisit that. And I don't see the chat, so if someone helps me out with that, that would be brilliant. So virtual connections, it's a new content type in Tableau Server and Tableau Online that we use it as an abstraction layer to be able to, there is a situation where you like, if an admin creates a data source connection and he's embedding the credentials in that one, if another creator needs to do a change in any way to that, they need to know the credentials and stuff like that. And it's not a good situation. And we want to sort of foster that self-service situation where people can add and remove and change the sort of tables that are included, the relations, the keys on how they join and stuff like that. And we want more people than just the server admins or the credential keeper to be able to do that. So now you can add a bunch of tables to the virtual connection, and then you can sort of join your own ways in the sort of virtual connection space. So that means that you can create many different sort of scenarios from one physical connection. It's sort of like, you know, exposing the ODBC or the JDBC layer, and then allowing people to modify the sort of content within that space. So it's to bring more self-service to the system, and I think that it was really needed step, and it also caters for the other thing that we wanted to mention, the centralized row level security. So what it allows us to do within that sort of same space of that virtual connection is that if you create new data sources within that virtual connection, you can then make sure that the policies are always applied within that sort of domain or space, so that if someone creates a new type of analysis or environment, that is as secure as it was before. So it's a governance thing, and it really helps. It's part of the data management add-on, so make sure that you sort of have a system that is supporting that. Yeah, and then we have that thing where you can edit the published data sources, so you can now sort of add tables to it, or change the hierarchy, or change the relationship between tables. You can sort of mix it up with aggregates. One thing that I really like, and it doesn't show that well, it's here in the down here, it's a scratch pad. So when you edit that new data source, you can actually test it out. You can do the counts. You can see sort of how it relates to each other. So you can try out the new data source before you click that save button. So I know that not all of you are running like a dev quality assurance and a production environment. So, but if you don't, you should. And with that, let's go to, so this is Slack, the latest Slack innovation. I don't know how much you've seen from Slack before our Slack integration. I think it's pretty neat, but that's because I'm working in Slack. If you're not working in Slack, all of that talk becomes sort of redundant, but it's really awesome to have that. And we have Teams integration as well through a partner. So if you're interested in getting that sort of action going, the collaboration around the data, that's really the sort of integration that you want to look into. So, and with this, I could, you know, perhaps just do a quick demo of some of the other stuff that we have regarding that. Let's see. So yeah, this is the state of things. You know, Tableau Online, it's coming soon. So that's why I'm showing stuff in this one. This is a pre-release version. And you know, does anyone know how to get hold of this sort of sandbox version of Tableau Online? It's free, and all you need to do is join the developer program. Then you get this sandbox, and you can try out all the new features, and you can build the stuff to your heart's content, and you can be one step ahead of your customers or your internal stakeholders and so forth. I'm just gonna do, this is it's embarrassing to do this with the Zen master on board, but don't look at the dashboard. I have no sort of design abilities at all, but here I'm just gonna create an alert saying like above or equal to 2,300, and I'm gonna remove me, and I'm gonna add Salesforce, and I'm going to create an alert. So that way I'm just creating an alert for this one, and I can sort of, I can comment on this one, and I can share it, and I'll use this one and type something in, and hopefully my Slack will sort of show up. And here I'm saying like, this is the campaign analytics, and then I can start collaborating about this. I can share that message and so forth. So, and the same goes with Teams. So it's all really simple. And then where's my what's new?
2 minutes, is that okay, Leif?
Sorry?
2 more minutes.
Yeah. And Tableau Exchange, I mentioned it. We have the accelerators. There's like 65 of them coming in the next coming days. So it's going to be pretty cool. And all you need to do is sort of, it's going to tell you what you need to remap in the data source. in order to make them work, but they are pretty great. We bought a company called Lintau, so it's gonna show up in the coming release. And then map layers, yeah. Let's see if we can do that in 1 minute then.
Yeah, I mean, Klaus did it in 20 minutes on the Iron Fist, so I mean, you should be able to do it in 1.
Let's see where that window is.
I almost saw it. You were dragging into the into. There you go.
So I'll create a new workbook. This is a Swedish example, so if it doesn't make sense to you guys, it's like, sorry, on this side. I'm gonna bring out some, this is Gävle 1. It's a flooding map because they had some flooding there this summer because of heavy rains. So I'm just gonna drag it in. So this is the sort of Gävle 1 flooding areas. And then I'm gonna take another data source, which is the Gävle AB real estate. And I'm just gonna drag that one into, so, and add it as a layer. And I'm gonna change that color to red. And I can add as many layers as I want to this one. And then I'm just going to zoom in. So most of the real estate is in this area. So then I can quite easily see, so, oh, look, we have some real estate that's going to be flooded. And it's just sort of a drag and drop thing. And I think it's pretty neat just to take, shape files from S3 or whatever and just drag it in.
So no relationships or blending or anything.
Exactly. So in previous versions, you had to do like a union join stuff in order to get it to work. And I did a full auto join. If I didn't want them to join, I just wanted layers. But now you can just drag them in. So that's pretty neat.
So I guess then as soon as this one is released, there will be 1,500 blogs of people blowing up Tableau, not on maps, but using those multiple layers on scatter plots and all kinds of stuff that we saw first time these multiple layers came into view.
Yeah, exactly. So but I think that there's so much great happening, and then you get an email if your flow succeeds in Tableau server if you have it scheduled. That's really good. As a system admin, I usually think that I want to have an email when it fails, but the rest of the world really want to have it when it succeeds. So thank you all for taking the time and listening to me today. And with that, I'm just saving those links. You're going to get those sent out to you. And now I'm going to stop my share.
Thank you. There was one question. With the MS Teams integration, would that work for Tableau Online or just server or on-prem server or both?
It's going to work with Tableau Online. So yeah, it's so basically it's built on webhooks. And if you want to, I can sort of communicate with you if you're interested in that. So, but
that's a third-party cost some money kind of integration, or
well, basically, so the Teams integration is done by partner, and they are using our webhooks API. So, and the webhooks API is available in Tableau.
Okay.
So, and it's part of the basic package.
Okay, thank you. Then, if there is no more questions. There was a comment also from Elena, and I had to test it as well, especially if you get a bit older and your eyesight is a bit bad. You could actually, when somebody's sharing your screen, you can go on top of the menu and you could zoom into either 100% or even all the way into 300%. That's going to be very exciting if the screen is moving or changing. But that's a nice tip.
I'll change my resolution for next time.
No, it worked well. It worked well. I'm not sure why Elena was. She knew about all the new features, or she just was playing around with with the Zoom. I'm not sure, but you don't have to answer. That's fine. So, Klaus, are you ready to share your screen?
Yes, I'm ready. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah, it doesn't say anything about RMVs in here, but is it because you've put it behind you and just focusing on Professor and Zen-master?
It will come on the second slide.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you, and good luck. Very nice to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you, Tore, and I'm really happy to bring my German accent to this wonderful group of international people. So to complete the various accents here in Europe. And I'm also very much looking forward to talk about a topic that is close to my heart. I will introduce me in a minute. So I've been working a lot of on financial data, visualizing financial data, and creating useful decision-making tools for people who work in finance, who work in controlling. That's what I teach at university, and yeah, I've become a data person over the past years, and it's really fun to combine my two passions, my passion for finance topics, for controlling topics, and for data. And I want to show you one tool today that I've created recently, and maybe there is one or there are some of you that can use this tool in own projects or in your own companies. Okay, so yeah, I'm Klaus. I'm at I always say a day. I'm not a data person at all. I'm teaching accounting stuff. So I'm an accountant, and I'm an accountant from origin. I've been a professor at Münster School of Business since 2010, and I do the things that professors do at university. I teach exciting stuff like cost accounting, like budgeting, like strategic, operational, controlling, and all these exciting topics. And yeah, this is actually also the reason why I've become a data person as well, because I mean, students hear all the time how important it is to learn about digitalization, and that data is everywhere and digitalization will change everything. But when you look into the curricula at universities, there is still room for more data topics, for more digitalization topics. And that's what I thought in 2017. I wanted to include data visualization in my lectures on reporting. And it was a coincidence that I came across Tableau that time, but I fell in love immediately. And that's, yeah, and then I started using the tool to be some steps ahead of my students, because when you teach the tool, I mean, we have some coaches here among us, then you really have to know what you're talking about. And that's why I started being active in the Tableau community. And yeah, eventually became this Tableau person with Iron Viz. I was lucky to win Iron Viz in 2018 at Tableau conference. I've become a Zen master, but the most fun always is to create visualizations on Tableau Public, but also to use Tableau Prep. I'm a big Tableau Prep fan, and I'm really excited about Tableau Prep coming to Tableau Public as well next year sometime. So I think that will be a great move for Tableau Prep to bring it even closer to people's attention, because especially for us finance and controlling people, this is such a powerful tool to integrate the various data sources we work with. So I'm quite excited about that. I'm also blogging about the stuff I do. I haven't got 300 blogs like Ken and Kevin Flörlach, or 3,000 probably like Andy Kriebel, but there are some on my blog. So if you want to visit visjockey.com, you will see some of the solutions I've created in the past, very technical stuff, but I think always useful and handy. And I'm also doing I also combine my two passions for finance and controlling and Tableau with my consultancy, CEO Data. So we do a lot of projects around these finance and controlling topics. Yeah, and the things I'm going to talk about today are also in this area. Yeah, so that's about me. I've done some work in the Tableau community and especially on Tableau Public recently on visualizing financial data. I mean, we finance and accounting people, we love our tables, that's for sure. But even if we present a P&L, for example, like in this example from Daimler, it's possible to use the great capabilities of Tableau to at least make this table interactive. Because as an example, what we accountants do all the time is we create ratios. We calculate margins to see, for example, how profitable was this company we are looking at. Or we create efficiencies, we calculate efficiencies and putting, for example, selling expenses in relation to the revenue. Or we want to know about percentages of total. How high is the share of the selling expenses of our total operational expenses? Yeah, and in this dashboard, we can just create all these KPIs we want to know about by using these actions. And yeah, this is just another way, a different way of showing this data away from just having this boring table with the 2 last periods and the change, going to a more interactive representation of this data. Then I've also done some work on a more experimental approach of visualizing a P&L. Yeah, this is again data from Daimler, and this flow chart you can see here on the left side is the P&L data from Daimler, and it transforms the revenue at the top to the net profit at the bottom of this visual by flying out the expenses or costs, like the cost of sales here or the selling expenses here, and flying in other income, other operational or non-operational income here on the right side. So this is different, and as I said, we accountants, we love our tables, and this is quite a step, I would say. But yeah, that's what I love to do, to think about how can we visualize this data in a different way, in a more engaging way, and to help people to understand this data, because there are many people around that are not accountants who have to work and who have to understand this data, and this way might help to get insights from this. Another thing I've created is, again, a P&L view. What we accountants always want to know is we want to learn about the change in a P&L, for example. When you look at this, this is a P&L, and we see, for example, much of the change in net income is coming from the overhead costs. 1.8 billion here. Again, this is Daimler data. And then we want to know where does this come from? And by using simple techniques like drill down techniques, we are able to drill into this. We see, okay, it is coming from various positions, but also from R&D costs. We can go further down and see what is the origin of the change. It's the personal expenses in R&D, and a lot of this change is coming from this particular account. This is, by the way, not real Daimler data. This is a mock-up, but to give you an impression of what it would look like. Now, then you would have this breadcrumb navigation to go back and find another path in this P&L. Yeah, so this has been a lot of my work, just figuring out new ways, different ways of interacting and analyzing the data and find the nuggets you need to know about. This is all visualizing financial accounting data. And this data is available in all companies, because companies are forced to create this data, because the legal systems in all countries require to do this kind of financial accounting, and this data is there. Today, I want to talk about something different, yeah, this is also the topic that I teach at university, and in Germany we say controlling. I think controlling is also quite widespread in Europe, and in America we would maybe say management accounting. But what I want to talk today about is yeah, to provide useful information for decision making. So you cannot calculate a price, for example, based on a P&L, or you cannot set up a marketing campaign when you look into your P&L. You need more detailed, more granular data, and yeah, most of the time you need different data. And we all know that there's a lot of data in the companies, in various sources, in the cloud, on premise, in the ERP, and in CRM systems, and there is enough data most of the time. However, when we want to create such decision-making tools, most of the time we have to combine this data first, and this can be a struggle. This can be a challenge, because most of the time the data is not in one place. You have to take the different data sources and find a way to combine the data, and that's very often the time when controllers as well as non-controllers take Excel to combine the different data and create them Excel monsters. I've been guilty of creating my own Excel monsters as well, but I've also made some steps forward, and I don't do that today anymore because we have these great tools like Tableau Prep and of course Tableau Desktop to build our data models for our decision-making tools, and then to create a dashboard, to create a visual that will help the decision makers to actually yeah, do their job and do their tasks. And that's what I want to do today. So we want to do today a very common controlling decision-making tool, and that is a pricing tool. And I want to build this from scratch by creating a data model in Tableau Prep first. And then we will switch to Tableau Desktop and create a little app, a little pricing app that can be used in very many occasions. Okay, let's look at the result first before we go into this. So this is what I have in mind. So imagine there is a need for a pricing calculator. In this example, we want to calculate new products. Our products, they run through a two-stage production process where we have a couple of machines in stage A and a couple of machines in stage B. And there are some other parameters we can use to calculate our manufacturing costs, our overhead costs, and our selling price eventually. Yeah, so this is the cost plus pricing model. There are many reasons. We could do an own presentation on pricing methodologies for sure, but I don't want to talk about that today. So let's assume we take this cost plus pricing approach, and we could now use this tool by saying, okay, we calculate a new product. We have material costs for this new product of €1.25. We know this product will be produced on machine 2 in stage A, machine 4 in stage B. Then there will be some kind of scrap in the production process. We know we have to add surcharge 25% for overhead costs on our manufacturing costs. And then we will sell it to our customers who will get 3% of discount on average. And we will also want to earn some money, 15% profit margin. And this would be the selling price calculated with this tool. So how can we do this? Very easily. Wait a second, I have to share my entire screen. And I want to walk with you through the steps to create the data model and then to create this calculator in Tableau Desktop. Okay, let me connect to some table. So I have my machine data. This is coming from a table, and the other data we need for this calculator will be parameters in Tableau Desktop in this first version, and then we will add more data from different tables in the second step. Let's have a look at this data. So this is my table where we have the machinery data. So these are our two production processes, stage A, stage B, with the machines and the cost per unit that will be there for each unit produced on this machine and on that machine. What I will do now in the first step, I will build a Cartesian product of the stage A and the stage B machines. So this will be stage A. So for stage A, we will only keep the stage A machines. And for stage B, of course, we will only keep the stage B machines. Yeah, so I've separated the two, stage B, stage A, and then I'm bringing them back together in a join. And I will join on my stage. And I will say, I use the operator that they are not equal. And you see, we have now 60 rows, and 60 rows means we have all combinations for machine stage A, sorry, and stage B. Yeah, so these are the different combinations in this production process. And then we need the positions. To create the positions, just looking back on this, so we have the direct material, the machine cost, the scrap, the overhead, the discount, and the profit margin. And I just create dummy positions for these positions. Yeah, and I just type in null, so I want to keep them empty. This is direct material. Then we have the machine costs. This is also a null. Then we have the scrap. Then I use the overhead. And we have the discount. And we have our profit margin. Yeah, that's pretty much it for typing. So we have now our positions for our pricing model. Next step is to pivot everything. So I take my dummy positions. And again, you see we have now 360 rows. So we had the 60 possible combinations for the two machines times 6, because we have 6 positions now. And that's why we have 360 rows. So, and these will actually be my position in the final model. And we don't even need these null values, so I will just remove them. Last step, you see in Tableau these subtotals. We could do them, could group these positions in Tableau. I'd like to do it in Tableau Prep. So therefore, I'm just duplicating my position field. And this will be my subtotal. And for the manufacturing costs, I add up the direct material, the machine costs, and the scrap. This will be my manufacturing costs. Then overhead is an own subtotal, and discount and profit margin will be the selling price. Like this. That's basically all. So now we have our data model. So again, all possible combinations between the machines. And for each combination, we have 6 positions to fill later in Tableau Desktop with our parameters or with values from our parameters. Okay, we could do some cleaning here for the variable names. I will leave that for now, and then there would be an output, and we could output this this table, and we're ready to visit in Tableau Desktop. Okay, I've prepared it in Tableau Desktop, so I'm now connected to this output. So we have here our machines, our position, stage A, stage B, the subtotal, and the cost per unit for my 2 machines. Now let's bring in the pricing model. Here you see the subtotals and the positions. And this will help me now for with creating my measures that I will need. I've prepared a bunch of parameters for my inputs. For direct material, for scrap, for overhead, for discount, and for profit margin. Okay, next thing, let's calculate the costs. I will start with the manufacturing cost. And this will be calculated based on our position field. And when the position is direct material, then I will use this parameter input. When the position is machine costs, then I will use these costs per units from my table. Cost per unit from machine A, stage A, and cost per unit from machine stage B. And when it is scrap, so scrap is based on, again, put brackets around it, on direct material plus this one plus this one. And we normally would have a parameter. I know that this is an integer parameter. That's why I have to divide it by 100. So that would be the first step. These are the manufacturing costs. And when I bring them in, we see that there is already something happening. Let's show the parameters. So we have a direct material of 1.25 euros per unit. Why is it 75? Because we still have all the machine combinations in the view. So let's filter it down to one possible combination. I take the combination 1,1. And then we have the €1.25. Then we have the machine costs coming from this particular combination, and we have the scrap. Next step is the overhead costs. For the overhead costs, again, I'm building a case statement based on my position, and I say when it is overhead, then I take the sum from the first step. I use the LOD here, and I'm summing up the manufacturing costs. Like this. And then I multiply it with my overhead parameter divided by 100. And else I use the manufacturing costs. So this is giving me the calculation for my second step. So manufacturing costs, the first step, overhead is the second step. Now let's bring this in as well, and also show the parameter. So we have 25%. So roughly this is 8 something, and 25% is €2 something. That is looking good. Last step is then the selling price. And for the selling price, same thing again. We have a case statement on the position. When it is discount, then we take the costs that have happened so far, so the manufacturing costs and the overhead costs. So fixed, again, the LOD, machine B, sum of overhead, and we divide this by, and I have to explain that. So the discount is normally calculated from the selling price, and that's why we have to take this calculation by coming or calculating it from the selling price, and therefore we have to divide by 1 minus the discount. So we take the discount here. And also the profit margin, because this is also calculated from the selling price and then multiply with a discount. Yeah, so this is a tricky one. Also divide by 100, because these are integer parameters like this. And it will be pretty much the same for my profit margin. The only difference that we will have the profit margin here at this place. Okay, and else we take the overhead measure we've created in the previous step. And that's it. I hope there is everything right so far. Should be good. So this is now the selling price. Let's show the parameters. So we have a discount of 3%, and we have 15% of profit margin. This is also looking reasonable. Last thing we have to do, I take out the first two because we don't need them anymore. Then I will add my subtotals. I will make this one a running total and compute using my subtotal. And that's it. So this is now my calculator, my pricing tool, and like we've seen it earlier, so I could now show these filters. Also this one. That was accidentally. So this is no what I want to show the filter.
You really love context, don't you?
Yeah. Context will play a role at a later step. So let's just make this a single value drop down, and now we are free to adjust the filters, use different machines, adjust our parameters for overhead costs, for discount or whatever, and have a proper calculated price. Now, last step would be to bring this on a dashboard and maybe sort the parameters a little bit. Discount in the second row, profit margin in the second row. Yeah, something like that. Let's make this entire view. And I think everyone can knows what it will look like eventually. So there could be some more formatting, but basically that's it. Yeah, so this is the first step, and this is this one, and this could be something for a new product. So we don't have direct material costs in our ERP system. We don't know the particular customer this is produced for example. Next step could now be to bring in other data from other systems into this model. For example, we have the parameter for direct materials and we have the parameter for discount at this point. But let's bring in this one from existing tables. Yeah, therefore I use relationships. So I'm connected to a database, and I'm just creating a relationship on 1 and 1. And I do the same for my direct materials. Also a relationship on 1. And now we are able to adjust our calculations. So we have now this discount information, which is based on a certain customer, and we have the material costs, which is depending on the product we are selecting. Yeah, let's build that or bake that into our calculations. So instead of the parameter, I'm now using my measure, direct material, and also here. And for the selling price, I'm using the discount information. I know that this is not an integer, but actually discount. So I have to get rid of the 100 here, also there. And that's it. So you see my price exploding because we have now not filtered down yet to a customer or a product. Let's do that. So we choose a random product. And we also choose a random customer. Or not, let's not choose a random one, but maybe Sean Miller. So the best customer from Superstore. And you see my price is still looking quite kind of ugly because we have LODs in place and we have to make this product filter and customer filter a context filter. Yeah, so now we are able to bring in, for example, the discount information based on our customer. That means when we change the customer, the discount should change. Yeah, it does. And when we change the product ID, so show this filter, also make this a single value drop down. So when we choose this one, the direct material cost should change. So just like this, we can bring now the existing data to this data model for direct materials, for machine costs, for whatever, for the overhead, premium, for discounts, for transport costs, whatever would be in your data model. Yeah, this is what it would look like in the end. We could show these actual discounts, the percentages here in a separate comment, in a separate column. Yeah. So that would be the second step. Tori, do I have 5 more minutes, or what do you think?
Sorry, yeah, I was planning on doing a Kahoot today, but since there's so little people showing up, I'm actually going to give everyone an option of sending me an email with their name and address, and everyone will get a Tableau t-shirt where it will say the TC21 t-shirt. So you have 5 more minutes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, maybe I don't even need 5 more minutes, but you could now just further build on this. And what I've done here, for example, is to add a market price. So maybe at some point the cost plus pricing wouldn't work, because there could of course be the costs, but if the market is just not willing to pay more, then you're probably then your costs are just too high. So in this case, there is a competition price, 34.95 in this case. And for this calculation, the profit margin is the resulting measure. Here in cost plus, the selling price actually is the resulting measure. Here, the profit is the resulting measure. And in this case, the price is below what we have calculated. So we are dent. And we could see that also for other products, and we are even more dent at this one. And like this, you can do every kind of decision-making tools that I've talked about earlier to bring the information to the top that are needed to talk to the specific customer about this specific product, or do other things, calculate new prices when needed. And that's basically it, what I wanted to share with you today. So again, I love to use the tools like Tableau Prep and Tableau Desktop, because they allow me to build these models and these kind of little apps and tools quite easily. And when you then bring in the data, the real world company data from ERP, from CRM, from wherever, these are really handy tools. You don't need Excel anymore. Most of the time, the users will be very happy to get rid of these Excel files and to have these tools and this data from a trusted source from the Tableau server, and just do what they have to do to make their decisions. Okay, that's almost it. I'm looking forward to your questions, and I'm already saying now, have a great Christmas season. If you find some time, you probably know about Workout Wednesday, and this nice Christmas tree was created by Kendra McRae, and it is pointing to 24 Workout Wednesday challenges. So if you find some time over the Christmas days, here are some challenges you might want to tackle. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you as well. I've seen the pricing tool, but it's always nicer to actually see it being created in person and explained as well. So I really loved it. I see that Elena agrees. For the rest of you guys out there, is there any comments, any questions? Let me see now, since this was, I'm just going to share my screen again. And I need to get my chat up and running. People seem to be impressed and happy with your presentation, at least, which is a good thing. I'll zoom in this picture again. So we've had Simon Says on a presentation before. That was last Christmas, wasn't it? And Sarah Bartlett, she's both been to the Norwegian user group and also in, was it Sweden, Elena, or was it Denmark? And there's a lot of the twins are somewhere in the back here as well, I can see. And then we have you, Klaus, hidden behind the hand over there. And I've got some emails with the correct. They were widely guessing, they say, but they did find you, so you were there.
Yeah, that's me.
So this is something that it's always nice to. I've attended a couple of these as well, both in London and Berlin and Las Vegas in 2019. So please join the community, be a part of the data fam, and you will be able to hang out with this crazy bunch of people as well.
Maybe Leif can share when we will meet next time in person at conference.
Yeah, I wish I knew. I need to sort of look at the COVID data set before that.
Yeah, I know that they have thought about some. They have some ideas, but I guess we will know soon. But it will be before summer. That's the plan. At least that's what they said. But you never know when we have this new beautiful Omicron or whatever it's called. So these guys got a lot of likes. There was this utility guys or whatever it was that have that same company name. So they have a lot of likes on LinkedIn now. they were happy. So as I mentioned, free t-shirts for the TC21. We got a bunch of those. One day late for our viewing party in Norway. I think Karin had ordered 80 something, and they came the day after. So we are sharing these these to you guys. They are still in here, so send me an email. I put my email address again in the chat window, so you can send me an email with your t-shirt size and your home address, and hopefully you will receive it before Christmas. So no Kahoot, sorry Martin, but you'll get that t-shirt anyways. Any final words, or are you good to go on your holidays, everyone?
Pleasure meeting you all. Take care.
It was a pleasure to meet you all, and thank you everybody who presented and who participated.
Perfect. This is the Kahoot I was planning on doing. So next time we'll do a Christmas Kahoot in February or March or something. That will be fun. Thank you to all the presenters. Have a nice holiday coming up. Hopefully it will be COVID-free, and we'll meet again at a new event, hopefully in person in 2022.
Thank you, Dura, for inviting. Thank you for hosting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tore. Thank you, Elena.
Thank you
all for hosting. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.